2 years had passed since humanity vanished from the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Galactic Council chamber on Viridian Prime looked very different now. Where once 12 proud races had sat as equals, now they gathered as supplicants. The crystal table remained the same, but the beings around it had changed. They spoke in hushed tones, careful not to anger the watchers they knew were always present but could never see. Admiral Kim Tae-ho materialized in the center of the chamber, his form solid, yet somehow existing in multiple dimensions at once. The alien representatives tensed, still not accustomed to humanity's ability to appear anywhere without warning. "Honored delegates," Tae-ho said calmly, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had transcended the normal limitations of existence. "Thank you for accepting our invitation to discuss the future." General Krextor, his once proud scales now dulled by months of stress and defeat, spoke first. "Admiral, the Velkaran Empire wishes to formally apologize for our actions 2 years ago. We did not understand. None of us understood," added Hive Queen Zixara, her collective consciousness still struggling to comprehend beings who existed outside normal space-time. "We acted from fear and ignorance." Tae-ho nodded graciously. Around the chamber, other human figures began to appear. Captain Park So-min stepped out of what looked like empty air. Dr. Lee Junwoo emerged from a dimensional fold that hurt to look at directly. Commander Yoon Hana's form coalesced from shadows that seemed to exist in 17 different places simultaneously. "We know," Tae-ho replied. "We have been watching. We have seen how the galaxy has suffered since our departure. The suffering had been immense. Without human trade networks, entire civilizations had faced economic collapse. The wars that had erupted after the alliance fell apart had killed billions. Several minor races had gone extinct in the chaos that followed humanity's disappearance. We need your help," SciFiPrime Velnoth admitted, the ancient being's energy form flickering with desperation. "Our civilizations are dying. The galaxy is falling apart without the stability that humans provided." Dr. Lee stepped forward, his form shifting between dimensions in ways that made the aliens dizzy to watch. "We have been studying your situation," he said. "The collapse was predictable. You destroyed the economic and social networks that held the galaxy together. Can you fix it?" asked Admiral Keth of the Nexari, his proud military bearing reduced to humble pleading. "We can," Captain Park replied. "But the galaxy will have to accept a new reality. Humanity is no longer just another race competing for resources and territory. We have become something else entirely." The aliens exchanged glances filled with fear and hope. They had spent 2 years learning that their former prey had become their superiors in every way that mattered. Human ships could appear anywhere instantly. Human technology operated on principles they could not understand. Human beings existed in spaces they could not reach or perceive. "What do you want from us?" Krextor asked. "Nothing," Tae-ho replied, and the simplicity of his answer was more frightening than any demand could have been. "We do not need anything from you. We exist beyond the limitations of physical resources or territorial boundaries." Commander Yoon Hana moved to a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. War zones glowed red. Dead systems appeared as black voids. Economic collapse was marked in shades of yellow and orange. "This is what fear and hatred have brought you," she said quietly. "You united to destroy us because you were afraid of what we might become. In doing so, you forced us to become something far beyond what you feared." The truth was difficult for the aliens to accept. By attacking humanity, they had pushed the human race to evolve beyond normal existence. The species they had tried to exterminate had transcended physical reality itself. "We have a proposal," Dr. Lee announced, his form solidifying into something the aliens could look at without discomfort. "We will help restore stability to the galaxy. We will share our technology and knowledge. But there will be conditions." "What conditions?" Velnoth asked nervously. "First, all wars end immediately," Tae-ho stated. "We will not tolerate further destruction of civilizations that could contribute to galactic development. Second," Park continued, "trade and communication networks will be rebuilt according to principles that prevent future economic collapse. Third," Yoon Hana added, "any civilization that wishes to advance beyond its current limitations will be given the opportunity to learn from us." The final condition came from Dr. Lee. "And fourth, you must accept that humanity now serves as the galaxy's guardians and teachers. We exist to protect and guide, not to conquer or rule." The alien delegates sat in stunned silence. They were being offered salvation by the very species they had tried to destroy. But salvation would come at the cost of admitting their fundamental inferiority to beings who existed beyond their understanding. The alternative, Admiral Tejo said gently, is to continue as you have been. We will not interfere if you choose to destroy yourselves, but we will not allow you to threaten the innocent civilizations that depend on galactic stability. General Krextor was the first to respond. The proud Velkaran warrior who had once commanded the galaxy's greatest armada now bowed his head in submission. The Velkaran Empire accepts your terms. One by one, the other delegates agreed. They had no choice. Humanity offered them salvation from the chaos they had created, but only if they acknowledged humanity's new role as the galaxy's supreme authority. Over the following months, the changes were remarkable. Human ships began appearing throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors but as teachers and protectors. Wars ended when human vessels materialized between opposing fleets. Their mere presence enough to stop conflicts that conventional diplomacy could never resolve. Lieutenant Choi Min-ho, now Admiral Choi and commander of humanity's dimensional fleet, established a new kind of military presence. Human ships existed in multiple locations simultaneously, making it impossible for any civilization to threaten another without facing immediate intervention. We do not rule through fear, Choi explained to a gathering of alien military leaders. We rule through the understanding that we exist everywhere and nowhere. We can protect the innocent and stop aggression without the need for violence. The economic recovery was even more impressive. Human technology, operating on principles that transcended normal physics, could create resources from dimensional energy. Scarcity became a thing of the past as humans taught willing civilizations how to tap into the infinite power of folded space-time. Dr. Lee established research centers throughout the galaxy, offering to teach alien scientists the fundamentals of dimensional physics. Not every race will be able to transcend physical existence as we have, he explained to his first class of eager students. But all races can learn to use dimensional technology to improve their civilizations. Some species proved more adaptable than others. The Lumens, already beings of pure energy, found it relatively easy to extend their consciousness across multiple dimensions. The Centauri, with their mechanical precision, excelled at building devices that could manipulate dimensional space. Others, like the Velkarans and Thrix Collective, struggled with concepts that challenged their fundamental understanding of reality. But even they benefited from human guidance and protection. Captain Park established a new kind of diplomatic corps, with human representatives who could appear instantly at any location where mediation was needed. Conflicts are easier to resolve when both sides know that someone is watching who cannot be threatened or bribed, she observed. The most remarkable change came in the younger generation of aliens. Children who grew up in the new galaxy accepted humanity's transcendent nature as normal. They learned to think in terms of dimensional space and folded time. Some even began to develop abilities that approached human levels of dimensional awareness. They are evolving, Dr. Lee noted during one of his research reports. Not as quickly as we did, but faster than anyone expected. Within a few generations, several alien species may achieve their own forms of dimensional transcendence. Admiral Tejo stood in a command center that existed in 47 different dimensions simultaneously, watching over a galaxy that was finally at peace. Through the spaces between spaces, he could see every star system, monitor every civilization, and respond to any threat before it could develop. Are you satisfied with what we have become? Captain Park asked. Her own consciousness now spread across multiple dimensional layers. Tejo considered the question. Humanity had been forced to transcend normal existence to survive. In doing so, they had become the galaxy's guardians, teachers, and ultimate authorities. They existed beyond the reach of any threat while remaining committed to protecting those who could not protect themselves. We became what the galaxy needed us to become, he replied. Not what we wanted to be, but what was necessary. The species that had once faced extinction had become the foundation upon which a new galactic civilization was being built. The hunters who had driven humanity away from normal space had become the students learning from their former prey. In the end, the aliens had gotten what they feared most and needed most. A humanity that had transcended all limitations and chosen to use that. Captain Park So-min walked through the corridors of the ESS Indomitable, her footsteps echoing in the unusual quiet. 3 weeks had passed since the intelligence reports confirmed the alien fleet was coming. 3 weeks since humanity had received its death sentence from the galaxy's most powerful races. But instead of panic, there was something else in the air. A strange calm that made Park more nervous than any battle she had ever fought. She stopped at the observation deck and looked out at the small human fleet gathered around Earth. 200 ships, just as the aliens believed. But Park knew something the aliens did not. She had seen the real numbers. She had helped build what was really out there. "Captain," came a voice behind her. Lieutenant Choi Minho approached, carrying a datapad with the latest sensor readings. He was young for his rank, but brilliant with technology. His dark eyes showed excitement mixed with worry. "What do you have for me, Choi?" Park asked. "Strange energy readings from our ships," he replied, handing her the pad. "The same patterns we have been seeing for months, but stronger now. Whatever Dr. Lee has been working on, it is almost ready." Park looked at the data. To most people, it would have seemed like normal ship operations, but she had been briefed on Project Lazarus. She knew these energy readings meant something that would change everything. On the other side of the solar system, Commander Yoon Hana sat in her hidden command center beyond Pluto. The base was built into a small asteroid invisible to most sensors. From here, she had been watching the galaxy for years, gathering information that had helped humanity prepare for this moment. "Ma'am," said her communications officer, "we are getting reports from all sectors. The evacuation is proceeding on schedule." Hana nodded. Across 30 human colonies, civilians were quietly leaving their homes. They carried only what they needed, moving to coordinates that had been given to them in sealed orders. To anyone watching, it looked like humanity was running away. The aliens monitoring human communications were puzzled by what they saw. The humans were organized, calm, almost like they had practiced this before. There was no panic, no desperate calls for help. Instead, there were simple messages using code, words the aliens could not understand. Exodus proceeding on schedule. Came one report from New Sol Colony. Package delivery completed. Came another from the mining stations around Alpha Centauri. The children are safe, was the message. From the agricultural worlds near Tau Ceti. The alien intelligence. Officers tried to decode these messages, but they made no sense. What exodus? What packages? What children? It was like the humans were speaking in riddles. General Krextor stood in the command center of his flagship, studying the reports from his scouts. The Velkaran general had conquered dozens of worlds, but he had never seen anything like this. "They are evacuating," said his intelligence officer, a smaller Velkaran with bright blue scales, "but not to defended positions. They seem to be moving to empty space." "Empty space?" Krextor's voice was filled with confusion. "That makes no sense. Are they planning to die in the void rather than fight?" "We do not know, sir. Our sensors show the evacuation ships arriving at coordinates where nothing exists. Then they simply disappear from our scans." Krextor studied the data, his mind working through possibilities. Either the humans had technology that could hide entire populations, or they were doing something else entirely. Something the Velkaran military had never encountered before. Meanwhile, aboard the Indomitable, Dr. Lee Junwoo was putting the finishing touches on 5 years of work. The ship's lower decks had been converted into a massive laboratory, filled with equipment that pushed the boundaries of known science. "The dimensional fold generators are online," Lee said to his team. "We have achieved stable micro-wormholes in the test chambers." His assistants exchanged glances. They had been working on this project for years, but they still barely understood what they were building. Dr. Lee had theories about space and time that seemed impossible, yet somehow his experiments worked. "Dr. Lee," said one of his scientists, a young woman named Kim Hyo-jin, "are you certain this will work on the scale we need?" Lee looked up from his calculations, his eyes bright with excitement and fear. "We have tested it on small objects. We have sent probe ships through successfully. But you are right to be concerned. We have never attempted to move an entire fleet, and if it fails, then we die," Lee said simply. "But if we do nothing, we die anyway. At least this way we have a chance." The truth was that Lee had been working on dimensional physics for much longer than 5 years. Humanity had been preparing for this possibility for decades. They had known that eventually their rapid expansion would alarm the older races. They had known that war was coming, so they had prepared in secret. While building their visible fleet of 200 ships, They had also been building something else, something hidden, something that would only be revealed when humanity faced extinction. Admiral Tejo received the final reports in his private quarters. Park knocked on his door and entered, her face serious. "Sir, all preparations are complete," she said. "Dr. Lee confirms that Project Lazarus is ready for implementation." Tejo looked at the woman who had served as his second-in-command for 8 years. They had fought together, planned together, and now they were about to attempt something that had never been tried before. "Are you ready for this, Somin?" he asked. "I have been ready since the day we started planning," she replied. "The question is whether the galaxy is ready for us to disappear." Tejo smiled grimly. The aliens expected to find a desperate human fleet making a last stand around Earth. Instead, they would find something that would haunt them for generations. He activated his personal communicator and sent a message to Commander. And 3 words that would begin the most ambitious military operation in human history. Begin Phase 1. Across human space, the message was received and understood. On colony worlds, the last evacuation ships departed for their mysterious destinations. On military bases, personnel began activating equipment that had been hidden for years. On Earth itself, the final preparations were made. Lieutenant Choi finished his sensor sweeps and reported to Captain Park. "Ma'am, I am detecting massive energy buildups across the fleet. Whatever Dr. Lee has planned, it is starting now." Park nodded and activated the ship's internal communications. "All hands prepare for Project Lazarus implementation. This is not a drill." Throughout the ship, crew members moved to stations they had practiced reaching but never expected to use. Engineers activated systems that had been installed in secret. Scientists powered up equipment that existed nowhere else in human space. Dr. Lee stood in his laboratory, surrounded by machines that hummed with barely contained energy. The dimensional fold generators were ready. The calculations were complete. All that remained was to see if humanity's greatest gamble would pay off. "Beginning countdown," Lee said into his communicator. 10 minutes to implementation." Admiral Tejo took his place on the bridge of the Indomitable. Around him, his crew prepared for something that had never been attempted before. They were about to make an entire fleet disappear, but they were not running away. They were not hiding in fear. They were preparing to become something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that would change the rules of the game forever. The aliens were coming with 50,000 ships, expecting to crush 200. They had no idea that they were about to face something far more dangerous than any fleet. They were about to face the unknown. 1 year after humanity vanished, the galaxy barely recognized itself. General Krextor stood in the ruins of what had been the Nexari trade station at Kepler 442. The massive structure, once a hub of commerce connecting dozens of star systems, now floated as twisted metal and broken dreams. The war between the Velkarons and the Nexari had been brutal and swift. "Sir," said his aide Texeron, approaching carefully through the debris field, "the Thrix Collective has officially declared war on the Hydran Alliance. That makes 7 active conflicts since the humans disappeared." Krextor looked out at the destruction and felt something he had rarely experienced in his military career: regret. The alliance that had united to destroy humanity had lasted exactly 4 months after finding the empty Sol system. Without a common enemy, old hatreds had resurged with a vengeance. "Status on the search for the humans?" Krextor asked, though he expected the same answer he had been getting for months. "No success, sir. Our science teams believe they may be dead. Some kind of accident with their experimental technology." But Krextor was not convinced. Something deep in his warrior instincts told him that humanity was still out there. Somewhere, waiting. He was right. In the dimensional space that existed between realities, Admiral Kim Tejo stood on the bridge of a vessel that bore the name Indomitable, but was no longer the same ship that had left normal space a year ago. The humans had not been idle during their absence. They had been building, learning, evolving. The Indomitable now stretched across 17 different dimensional layers. It existed as one ship and many ships simultaneously. Its crew could be in multiple places at once while remaining connected as a single unit. The vessel itself had become something beyond the understanding of normal physics. "Admiral," said Captain Park Somin, her image appearing on screens that showed her from several dimensional perspectives at once. "Dr. Lee reports that the fleet transformation is complete." Tejo nodded. What had started as 600 ships had become something far more complex. Each vessel now existed in multiple dimensions, connected to the others through spatial folds that allowed instant communication and coordination across impossible distances. "How many ships do we have now?" Tejo asked. "That question no longer has a simple answer," Park replied with a smile. "We exist as 600 ships, or 2,000 ships, or one ship, depending on how you choose to count. We are what we need to be." Dr. Lee Junwoo had spent the past year pushing the boundaries of what was possible. His research team had discovered that living in dimensional space changed humans in fundamental ways. They were becoming something new, something that could exist across multiple layers of reality simultaneously. "The transformation is remarkable," Lee reported during their daily briefing. "Our cognitive abilities have increased by orders of magnitude. Our perception of time and space has fundamentally altered. We are no longer constrained by the limitations of single-dimensional existence. But perhaps more importantly, they had been watching. Every alien fleet movement, every diplomatic meeting, every secret plan had been observed by humans who existed in spaces the aliens could not detect. Lieutenant Choi Min-ho, now Admiral Choi due to the rapid expansion of human capabilities, was monitoring the galactic situation from a command center that existed in 23 dimensions. "Sir, the economic collapse is accelerating. 3 more star systems have gone dark. The Florens are facing starvation. And the military situation?" Tejo asked. 7 active wars, 12 border disputes, and at least 3 genocidal campaigns in progress. Choi replied grimly. "The galaxy is destroying itself." Commander Yoon Hana materialized in the conference room, her form now able to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. "Perhaps it is time to remind them that we still exist." The decision was made. After 1 year of observation and growth, humanity would reveal itself to the galaxy. But they would not be the same species that had vanished. They would be something new, something that operated by rules the galaxy had never seen before. The demonstration began with something simple. On the Velkaran homeworld, General Krextor was in his command center when every screen in the facility activated simultaneously. Admiral Tejo's face appeared on all of them at once. "General Krextor," Tejo said calmly, "I believe you have been looking for us." Krextor's scales bristled with shock. "How are you? This transmission is impossible. Our communication systems are completely secure." "Security is a relative concept when you exist outside normal space," Tejo replied. "We have been watching you, General. We have seen what the galaxy has become in our absence." Similar transmissions were appearing simultaneously on Thrick's collective hive ships, Hydron research stations, and the energy matrices of Lumen motherships. Every major alien leader was receiving the same message at exactly the same time. But that was only the beginning of the demonstration. Captain Park So-min's ship, the Resilience, began to appear in normal space, first as a sensor ghost near the Thrick's homeworld, then as a solid contact in orbit around the Nixari capital, then as a visible presence near the Velkaran fleet. The same ship, in 3 different star systems, at the same time. "Impossible," breathed Hive Queen Zixara as her billion-mind collective tried to process what they were seeing. "One ship cannot be in multiple locations simultaneously." "You are thinking in terms of normal physics," came Captain Park's voice over their communication systems. "We no longer operate within those constraints." The aliens scrambled to respond. Fleets were dispatched to intercept the human ships. Weapons were charged and fired. But every attack passed harmlessly through vessels that were there and not there at the same time. "You cannot hurt what you cannot touch," Park explained calmly as Thrick's plasma bolts passed through her ship without effect. "We exist in spaces you cannot reach." Dr. Lee's voice joined the conversation from what appeared to be a laboratory that existed in 17 different locations simultaneously. "We have spent the past year learning to transcend the limitations that bind you to single-dimensional existence. We have become something new." The demonstrations continued for hours. Human ships appeared throughout the galaxy, sometimes alone, sometimes in formations that seemed to ignore the basic rules of space and time. They moved instantly between star systems. They existed in multiple places at once. They communicated across impossible distances without any detectable transmission method. "What do you want?" General Krextor finally asked, his voice tight with fear and frustration. "We want you to understand," Admiral Tejo replied. You united 12 civilizations to destroy us because you feared what we might become. Now you know. We have become something beyond your ability to threaten or contain. But the most shocking demonstration came when the aliens tried to trace the human transmissions back to their source. Their most advanced sensor arrays detected the signals coming from everywhere and nowhere. The humans were not broadcasting from ships or bases that existed in normal space. They were communicating from the spaces between spaces, from dimensions that touched all of reality while remaining separate from it. We exist in the gaps in your reality, Dr. Lee explained. We can see everything you do, access any information you have, appear anywhere we choose. You cannot hide from us because we exist in the space that surrounds all hiding places. SciFiPrime Velnoth, who had spent months trying to understand how humanity had vanished, finally grasped the full implications of what they had accomplished. They have transcended physical reality, the ancient being announced to the assembled alien scientists. They exist as beings of dimensional space itself. They are no longer bound by the laws that govern normal matter and energy. The galaxy fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had not fled from their enemies. They had evolved beyond them. They had become something that could not be fought, could not be contained, and could not be understood using conventional science. We will be in contact, Admiral Tejo said as the human ships began to fade from normal space. We have much to discuss about the future of the galaxy. And then they were gone, leaving behind only the knowledge that somewhere in the spaces between spaces, humanity was watching, waiting, and deciding what came next. The hunters had become something far more dangerous than prey. They had become gods of the spaces in between. 6 months had passed since the alien armada discovered the empty Sol system, and the galaxy was falling apart. SciFiPrime Velnoth floated in the research chamber aboard the Lumen mothership, surrounded by data that made no sense. The ancient being of pure energy had spent centuries studying the fundamental laws of reality. Now humanity had apparently broken those laws and disappeared into impossible space. The mathematics are wrong, Velnoth said to the assembled team of alien scientists. According to everything we know, what the humans did cannot be done. Yet somehow they did it. Dr. Thexari, the hydrogen physicist, swam in her water-filled tank as she reviewed the human research data they had recovered from Earth. Their theoretical work suggests they found a way to create pocket dimensions, spaces that exist parallel to our reality but separate from it. That is impossible, declared Professor Zekmar of the Centauri. The mechanical being's optical sensors flashed red with frustration. Our civilization has studied dimensional physics for thousands of years. Pocket universes cannot be created artificially. Yet the evidence suggests otherwise, Velnoth replied quietly. The scientific community was not the only group struggling with humanity's disappearance. The galaxy's economy was collapsing. Trade routes that had depended on human colonies were now empty space. Several minor civilizations that had relied on human technology and resources were facing starvation. On the Velkaran homeworld, General Krexter met with his intelligence staff, trying to understand how their invasion had become such a disaster. The economic reports are worse than expected, said his aide, a young Velkaran named Texron. Without human trade, 17 systems are facing resource shortages. 3 have already requested emergency assistance. Krextor studied the holographic display showing the collapse of trade networks across the galaxy. The humans had been more connected to the galactic economy than anyone had realized. Their sudden absence left holes that other races were struggling to fill. What about the search efforts? Krextor asked. No success, sir. We have sent probe ships to every location where humans were spotted in the past year. We find nothing. It is as if they never existed. But that was not entirely true. Strange things were happening across the galaxy. Ships reported brief sensor contacts that matched human energy signatures, only to have them vanish before they could be investigated. Communication arrays picked up fragments of transmissions in human languages, coming from empty space. Captain Park So-min stood on what appeared to be the bridge of the ESS Indomitable, but the view outside the windows showed something that should not exist. Swirling colors that were not quite light. Geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. A space that was both infinite and confined. How are the crew adjustments proceeding? She asked Dr. Lee Junwoo, who was monitoring readings from instruments that had been specially designed for this environment. Better than expected, Lee replied. The human mind seems more adaptable to dimensional displacement than we predicted. We are losing only about 3% efficiency in cognitive function. Around them, the other ships of the human fleet floated in formations that would have been impossible in normal space. Some vessels appeared to be occupying the same coordinates while remaining completely separate. Others seemed to stretch across distances that were measured in concepts rather than kilometers. "Any progress on observing the galaxy?" Park asked. Lee smiled and activated a device that looked like a standard sensor array, but functioned on principles that alien science could not comprehend. "We can see everything. Every alien fleet movement, every communication, every secret meeting. They cannot hide from us because we exist in a space that touches all of their space." The truth was that humanity had not just fled to another dimension. They had found a way to exist in a space that was connected to normal reality, but separate from it. From their pocket universe, they could observe the entire galaxy while remaining completely undetectable. Commander Yoon Hana appeared on the communication screen, broadcasting from her command center that now existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. "Admiral Teho, the intelligence reports are very interesting." Admiral Teho, who was adapting well to existing in multiple dimensions at once, listened as Hana described what they were learning about the galaxy. "The alien alliance is falling apart," she reported. "Without a common enemy, old grudges are resurging. The Velkarans and Thrix Collective are already having border disputes. The economic collapse is causing civil unrest in several systems." "As we expected," Teho replied. "What about their search efforts?" "Completely futile. They are looking for us in normal space, but we exist in the spaces between spaces. They might as well try to find shadow by looking for light." The humans were learning that their new existence had advantages beyond simply hiding from enemies. The dimensional space they inhabited allowed them to access information and resources in ways that had never been possible before. Lieutenant Choi Min-ho, now adapted to his new environment, was monitoring alien communications from a sensor station that existed in 4 dimensions. "Sir, I am picking up something interesting. The aliens are trying to reverse engineer our technology from the abandoned facilities on Earth." "Any success?" Park asked. "None whatsoever. They cannot even understand what the equipment was supposed to do, let alone how it worked." This was another advantage of humanity's new existence. Their technology had been designed to function across dimensions. Without understanding dimensional physics, the alien races could not even begin to comprehend how human devices operated. Dr. Lee was working on something even more ambitious. In a laboratory that existed in 17 different dimensions simultaneously, he was developing new technologies that took advantage of their unique situation. "We can do more than just hide," he explained to his research team. "We can manipulate reality from outside reality. We can affect the normal universe while remaining completely safe from it." His experiments were producing results that would have seemed like magic to anyone still bound by normal physics. Energy could be created from nothing by drawing power from dimensional differentials. Matter could be moved instantly across vast distances by folding space through their pocket universe. Information could be gathered from any point in the galaxy by extending sensors through dimensional gaps. But perhaps the most significant discovery was that humans could now exist in multiple places simultaneously. Captain Park had learned to split her consciousness across 3 different dimensional layers, allowing her to command her ship while also conducting research and monitoring alien activities. The aliens searching for humanity had no idea that they were being watched constantly. Every meeting, every plan, every secret communication was observed by humans who existed in spaces the aliens could not perceive or access. "They still think we ran away," Admiral Teho said during a command meeting that took place in a conference room existing in 12 dimensions. "They believe we were cowards who fled rather than fight. Should we correct that misunderstanding?" asked Commander Hana. Teho considered the question. The human fleet had been in their dimensional space for 6 months now. They had adapted to their new existence and developed capabilities that exceeded their wildest dreams. They could return to normal space at any time, but they would not be the same humans who had left. Not yet, he decided. Let them search. Let them wonder. Let them make more mistakes while we grow stronger. The truth was that humanity was no longer the same species that had vanished 6 months ago. Living in dimensional space was changing them in ways both subtle and profound. They were developing new senses, new ways of thinking, new abilities that came from existing outside normal reality. When they finally returned to the galaxy, they would not be refugees seeking safety. They would be something the galaxy had never seen before. Velnoth continued studying the impossible physics that humanity had somehow mastered, unaware that human scientists were watching every calculation, listening to every theory. The ancient being was beginning to understand the terrifying implications of what had happened. If the humans can create pocket dimensions, Velnoth said to the other scientists, then they can appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. They can strike from spaces we cannot reach and retreat to safety we cannot follow. You think they will attack? Asked Dr. Thexari. I think they will do whatever they choose to do, Velnoth replied. And we will have no way to stop them. The galaxy's former hunters were beginning to realize they had made a fundamental error. They had not driven humanity away. They had forced humanity to evolve beyond them. And somewhere in the spaces between spaces, 600 human ships continued to grow stronger, while the galaxy that had tried to destroy them slowly tore itself apart. The Great Hall of Viridian Prime had never seen anything like this before. Representatives from 12 different alien races sat around the massive crystal table, their various forms creating strange shadows in the blue light. Some breathed air, others floated in special tanks filled with gas. A few existed as pure energy, glowing softly in the dim chamber. For 300 years, these races had fought each other over territory, resources, and old grudges. Today they were united by one thing: fear of humanity. General Krextor of the Velkaran Empire stood first. His scales caught the light as he moved, each one sharp enough to cut metal. The Velkarans had ruled the galactic core for over 1,000 years. They had crushed dozens of younger races who dared to challenge them. But humans were different. 50 years ago, the humans were nothing, Krextor said, his voice like grinding stone. They had barely left their home system. Now look at them. They have colonies in 30 star systems. Their technology grows faster than we can study it. Their ships appear in places they should not be able to reach. Hive Queen Zixara clicked her mandibles in agreement. The Thrix Collective shared thoughts across billions of minds, making them excellent at gathering information. Our scouts have watched them, she said in her buzzing voice. They do not follow the normal patterns. Most races take centuries to spread across just a few systems. Humans do it in decades. The ethereal being known as Velnoth pulsed with worried light. The Lumens were the oldest race in the galaxy. Beings of pure energy who had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. There is something wrong about them, Velnoth whispered, the words appearing directly in everyone's minds. They change too quickly. They adapt too well. It is not natural. Other voices joined the discussion. The aquatic hydrants complained that human trade ships moved through space in ways that seemed to ignore known physics. The mechanical Centauri reported that human computers processed information using methods they could not understand. Even the peaceful Florans, who had never fought a war in their history, wanted the humans stopped. They are dangerous, said Ambassador Keth of the Nexari. Our scientists studied their homeworld from a distance. The planet should not be able to support their population. Yet somehow it does. They have technology we have never seen before. The debate continued for hours. Each race shared stories that made the humans seem more frightening. They built ships too quickly. They solved problems that should have taken centuries in just a few years. They traded with races that had been enemies for generations, somehow making peace where others had failed. But it was the military reports that truly scared them. Our spies count only 200 ships in their entire fleet, Krextor said, projecting a hologram of human space. 200 ships to defend 30 systems. It should be impossible. No race can protect so much territory with so few vessels. Unless they have weapons we do not know about, Zixara added. Our analysis shows their ships are too small to carry the firepower needed for proper defense. Yet no one dares attack them. Because anyone who tries disappears, Velnoth said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the stories. 3 minor races had tried to raid human colonies in the early years. Their fleets had simply vanished. No distress calls, no debris, nothing. The humans claimed they knew nothing about it. They said the missing ships must have had accidents or been destroyed by pirates. No one believed them. They are playing games with us, Krextor growled. They pretend to be weak while hiding their true strength. This cannot continue. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, all 12 major races agreed on something. Humanity had to be stopped. The plan was simple. Each race would contribute ships and soldiers to a massive fleet. 50,000 vessels would converge on human space. They would destroy the human colonies one by one, then finish with Earth itself. With such overwhelming numbers, the humans would have no choice but to surrender or die. 200 ships against 50,000, Keth said with satisfaction. Even humans cannot win those odds. But as the alien leaders made their plans, they did not know about Admiral Kim Tae-ho. Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the ESS Indomitable, reading the intelligence report for the third time. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his crew could feel the tension in the air. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. "Sir," said Captain Park So-min, approaching with another data pad. "Long-range sensors confirm it. The alien fleet is larger than we thought. Our spies report at least 50,000 ships, maybe more." Tae-ho nodded slowly. Park was his second in command, a brilliant woman who had started as an engineer before moving into military strategy. If she was worried, there was good reason. "Have you told Dr. Lee?" Tae-ho asked. "He is already working on the final calculations," Park replied. "He says the project is almost ready." On the lower decks of the Indomitable, Dr. Lee Junwoo stared at screens filled with equations that would have driven most people insane. Lee was humanity's greatest physicist, the man who had made discoveries that changed everything. He had been working on something for the past 5 years, something so secret that only a few dozen people in the entire human government knew about it. "The dimensional matrices are stable," Lee said to his assistant. "We can begin the final phase." Across human space, similar conversations were happening on dozens of ships. Captains received sealed orders. Scientists activated equipment that had been hidden for years. Civilians began moving to evacuation points that seemed to lead nowhere. The aliens thought they were hunting a weak prey that had gotten too bold. They believed they were about to crush an upstart race that had forgotten its place in the galaxy. They had no idea that they were walking into something far beyond their understanding. In her hidden base beyond Pluto, Commander Yoon Hana finished encoding the final message. She was the head of Earth's intelligence division, a woman who had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. "Send the word," she told her communications officer. "Project Lazarus is authorized." Across human space, the message went out on frequencies the aliens could not detect. One by one, human colonies began to implement plans they had practiced for years, but never expected to use. The aliens were coming with the largest fleet in galactic history. They expected to find a desperate enemy trying to hide behind too few ships and impossible odds. Instead, they were about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous prey is the kind that has been preparing for the hunt all along. Admiral Tae-ho looked out at the stars and smiled grimly. Soon the galaxy would learn what humanity was truly capable of. Soon they would understand why 200 ships were more than enough. Soon the real game would begin. The Great Hall of HFY had never seen anything like this before. Representatives from 12 different alien races sat around the massive crystal table, their various forms creating strange shadows in the blue light. Some breathed air, others floated in special tanks filled with gas. A few existed as pure energy, glowing softly in the dim chamber. For 300 years, these races had fought each other over territory, resources, and old grudges. Today they were united by one thing: fear of humanity. General Krextor of the Velkaran Empire stood first. His scales caught the light as he moved, each one sharp enough to cut metal. The Velkarans had ruled the galactic core for over 1,000 years. They had crushed dozens of younger races who dared to challenge them. But humans were different. 50 years ago, the humans were nothing, Krextor said, his voice like grinding stone. They had barely left their home system. Now look at them. They have colonies in 30 star systems. Their technology grows faster than we can study it. Their ships appear in places they should not be able to reach. Hive Queen Zixara clicked her mandibles in agreement. The Thrix Collective shared thoughts across billions of minds, making them excellent at gathering information. "Our scouts have watched them," she said in her buzzing voice. "They do not follow the normal patterns. Most races take centuries to spread across just a few systems. Humans do it in decades." The ethereal being known as Velnoth pulsed with worried light. The Lumens were the oldest race in the galaxy. beings of pure energy who had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. "There is something wrong about them," Velnoth whispered, the words appearing directly in everyone's minds. "They change too quickly. They adapt too well. It is not natural." Other voices joined the discussion. The aquatic hydrons complained that human trade ships moved through space in ways that seemed to ignore known physics. The mechanical Centauri reported that human computers processed information using methods they could not understand. Even the peaceful Florens, who had never fought a war in their history, wanted the humans stopped. "They are dangerous," said Ambassador Keth of the Nexari. "Our scientists studied their homeworld from a distance. The planet should not be able to support their population. Yet somehow it does. They have technology we have never seen before." The debate continued for hours. Each race shared stories that made the humans seem more frightening. They built ships too quickly. They solved problems that should have taken centuries in just a few years. They traded with races that had been enemies for generations, somehow making peace where others had failed. But it was the military reports that truly scared them. "Our spies count only 200 ships in their entire fleet," Krextor said, projecting a hologram of human space. 200 ships to defend 30 systems. It should be impossible. No race can protect so much territory with so few vessels, unless they have weapons we do not know about. Zixara added, "Our analysis shows their ships are too small to carry the firepower needed for proper defense. Yet no one dares attack them, because anyone who tries disappears," Velnoth said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the stories. 3 minor races had tried to raid human colonies in the early years. Their fleets had simply vanished. No distress calls. No debris, nothing. The humans claimed they knew nothing about it. They said the missing ships must have had accidents or been destroyed by pirates. No one believed them. "They are playing games with us," Krextor growled. "They pretend to be weak while hiding their true strength. This cannot continue." The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, all 12 major races agreed on something. Humanity had to be stopped. The plan was simple. Each race would contribute ships and soldiers to a massive fleet. 50,000 vessels would converge on human space. They would destroy the human colonies one by one, then finish with Earth itself. With such overwhelming numbers, the humans would have no choice but to surrender or die. 200 ships against 50,000, Keth said with satisfaction. Even humans cannot win those odds. But as the alien leaders made their plans, they did not know about Admiral Kim Teho. Teho stood on the bridge of the ESS Indomitable, reading the intelligence report for the 3rd time. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his crew could feel the tension in the air. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. "Sir," said Captain Park Somin, approaching with another datapad. "Long-range sensors confirm it. The alien fleet is larger than we thought. Our spies report at least 50,000 ships, maybe more." Teho nodded slowly. Park was his second in command, a brilliant woman who had started as an engineer before moving into military strategy. If she was worried, there was good reason. "Have you told Dr. Lee?" Teho asked. "He is already working on the final calculations," Park replied. "He says the project is almost ready." On the lower decks of the Indomitable, Dr. Lee Junwoo stared at screens filled with equations that would have driven most people insane. Lee was humanity's greatest physicist, the man who had made discoveries that changed everything. He had been working on something for the past 5 years, something so secret that only a few dozen people in the entire human government knew about it. "The dimensional matrices are stable," Lee said to his assistant. "We can begin the final phase." Across human space, similar conversations were happening on dozens of ships. Captains received sealed orders. Scientists activated equipment that had been hidden for years. Civilians began moving to evacuation points that seemed to lead nowhere. The aliens thought they were hunting a weak prey that had gotten too bold. They believed they were about to crush an upstart race that had forgotten its place in the galaxy. They had no idea that they were walking into something far beyond their understanding. In her hidden base, beyond Pluto, Commander Yunhana finished encoding the final message. She was the head of Earth's intelligence division, a woman who had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. "Send the word," she told her communications officer. "Project Lazarus is authorized." Across human space, the message went out on frequencies the aliens could not detect. One by one, Human colonies began to implement plans they had practiced for years but never expected to use. The aliens were coming with the largest fleet in galactic history. They expected to find a desperate enemy trying to hide behind too few ships and impossible odds. Instead, they were about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous prey is the kind that has been preparing for the hunt all along. Admiral Tejo looked out at the stars and smiled grimly. Soon the galaxy would learn what humanity was truly capable of. Soon they would understand why 200 ships were more than enough. Soon the real game would begin.